Hello, welcome to Lord of the Kings. My name is Chris and I review stuff including games and horror films and a load of other stuff for a website called Nerdly, so you can find me at nerdly.co.uk. I'm originally from the UK but I now live in Germany and dislike talking about Brexit, but of course because I'm British everyone wants to talk to me about Brexit as if I know anything. Yeah, don't talk to me about Brexit. I live, if you're interested, between Frankfurt and Wiesbaden in Hessen. It's very nice in a little forest here. It's very, very pleasant. And my wife is German, which is why I live in Germany. There's been a bit of a lull in Kings of War content over the last 7 months as the sort of coronavirus lockdown has gone on. And there's some great stuff out there that I really enjoyed, Dash 28 and Countercharge and Unplugged Radio. So to be honest, I just wanted to put a little bit of content out there, put myself out there a little bit and just try and help fill that gap until people can start playing again and get back to normal. So yeah, as you can see, I'm sort of glancing nervously at my screen. I've written a bit of a script and clearly I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm just recording this on my iPhone. Obviously I'll think of a better way of doing this going forward, and as you can see I've got mostly ceiling in the shop, but you know, it is what it is. Any feedback anyone can give me or can tell me how to not do this so incompetently would be great. I'll do this Countercharge style, I suppose. Bits about me. So I've been playing games for about 5 years. I started with skirmish games like Guild Ball and Malifaux. Malifaux, I think, has one excellent mechanic and the models are great. So instead of rolling dice, you have a deck of cards and that's absolutely fantastic. But I just find it way too intense in terms of learning the synergies between the different models. There's, you know, every model has their own abilities and there's hundreds of different models, and how they all interact with each other is really, really important. So if you can kind of get over that point, and some people absolutely love it and it's the reason they love the game, but for me I never got over that point where I learn enough to actually really feel comfortable playing it like I know what I'm doing. And if you don't, it's just full of gotchas, and for me it was just full of gotchas. So as much as I love bits about it, it didn't quite work. Guild Ball's a really good game, but I never really played it enough to get good at it. Not really sure why, but it was an excellent game, and funnily enough I think it was cancelled about 2 weeks ago. It's a bit sad. I've got a couple of friends that play 40k, so I gave that a try. Not for me. I won't go into it, but I love the models, I love the lore. There's loads of great things about it, but the actual playing the game, I haven't tried 9th edition, not interested in trying 9th edition. It's fine, it's just not for me, you know. Don't want to criticise 40k on the internet, my god. I did enjoy AOS quite a bit more, so I went to a few tournaments and I've got some AOS armies, but it was that, I think a lot of people will understand, it was that slow bloat of models, endless spells, faction models, and it was just more and more and more, and it felt like model sales were driving the rules of the game and not the rules of the game driving model sales, right? And Games Workshop are perfectly entitled to do that, but it's just not terribly fun. And I was quite excited to get the Daughters of Cain because I just liked the models and the theme, and it just seemed like a really cool play style. So I built up this massive Marathi and a massive army, and then I went to play it with my friend who has Undead or Nagash or whatever it's called, and he didn't want to play with me because, you know, he was sort of like, it's too powerful. And at that point it's like, well, I don't want to be that guy who has the overpowered army. It was a bit rich because he had a really broken undead list. So it's that, well, I don't want it from either perspective really. I don't want to be the guy with the really powerful army, and I don't want to be the person without the really powerful army being beaten up by Ideneth eels or whatever. So it's awkward, it's just that imbalance. It doesn't feel, you know, you get to the table and you feel like you've already lost or won based on the stuff you've brought with you, and to me that doesn't sound great. So Kings of War 3rd edition dropped last year at a time when I was pretty burned out on GW games, to be honest. and it just addressed all these things that had been bothering me that I hadn't really thought about. I really hadn't come to these definitive conclusions. I just knew I wasn't having as much fun anymore with games. So I thought a friend of mine would play Kings of War with me, who'd played it back in first edition, but he's dropped by the wayside. We had one weird game where he brought this, he was totally unprepared, brought his case of miniatures, put a load of stuff on the board that didn't make any sense. It was just loads and loads of shooting. I think he had 2 regiments of shield breakers or something. Everything else was either cannons or shooting, and it wasn't a legal list or anything. And when he put it all down, and it was like grey plastic, I think there were maybe 2 painted models, which is okay. It's just not what I do. And I looked at it and I thought he was joking, because it was like, one of us is going to have a terrible time. This is like a game of 40k. And he had a terrible time, and he has never mentioned it since, and he's gone on to play Saga Age of Magic, which is really sad, to be honest, but I can't get him to play it again. And of course, if he doesn't want to play, what are you going to do? Don't want to force someone. That's quite a weird image. It's just not appropriate. So I started with Northern Alliance. That was my new army, and I did about 3,200 points. And then I just went straight into, I enjoyed that so much, I just went straight into doing elves, and I've got about the same amount of points of elves. I've then got a similar amount of points of Sylvan Kin, because I thought, well, I really like Sylvan Kin. I've got some old GW Sylvaneth models sitting on the shelf, not doing anything. Then of course it just led into a whole Sylvan Kin army, which I really, really like. And since then, I had a load of Rune Wars minis sitting around. When that game went under, I just bought up a load of models on the cheap. So I've got a undead army, but I won't be playing them because they are it's a lot more balanced than AOS, but I still don't want to be the guy with one of the 2 known really powerful armies, them and Abyssal Dwarves. It's just not for me. I'm not criticising anyone else. It's just I don't want to open up my case and someone's go, oh, but such is games. And most recently, again, it's just using up models I had. I've done a Twilight Kin army. One of the reasons I'm doing this little video is I've actually got my first 2-day event and my first Kings of War event coming up next month in September, so September 2020. And it's the Germany GT, which is up near Caen. And so I just thought I'm going to put out a couple of little videos, help fill the gap of content for Kings of War, and hopefully meet some nice people doing it, and hopefully we all have a lovely time. I've got some friends who've very, very kindly offered to play with me, so basically I'm kind of lending them an army and playing. So I'm going to have a think about how I can film a battle, what's interesting about that. But also, if they don't mind being filmed, I might just give them a little interview in English and just say, well, that's your first ever game of Kings of War, what did you think of it? How does it compare to other games? And I think there might be something interesting in that. I'm going up on Saturday to where the venue is and just meeting the organiser, who seems like a really, really nice bloke. I'm going to play a couple of games of Kings of War. But again, to be honest, I haven't really played that many games, so it'll be really good practice for me. I'm going to take up my Twilight Kin list, which is obviously kind of hard mode, really. It's very powerful, but if you make a mistake, you're in trouble. I've never played with a chess clock before or anything like that, so I'm going to have an hour. Hour for each game, so that's sort of slightly concerning. So I'm Chris. I really like Kings of War. I really like the people that play Kings of War, and I'm just going to make some videos and maybe share them with people. Any feedback, please let me know.